My name's Sinead. I've got one baby boy. He's 6 months old now. I gave birth in Calderdale Royal Infirmary by cesarean section. Yeah, I'm 25. A lot of my friends don't have babies. I only have one friend that has a little boy, and he's 4 now. So, like I don't have any like friends that, sort of having babies at the same time because he wouldn't latch. And I was just like, this is something that should just happen. You're supposed to just be able to, they're supposed to just do it. Like, why can't I do it? And so like massive felt like I was definitely failing because I was like, why can't I feed my baby? You know what I mean? And like I researched so much about it, put so much effort into it, and it just still wasn't working. So but again, I feel like when I was researching it, I knew it was hard, as in like once you were in it, to stick with it. I knew I'd researched and I found that out, but I didn't in the research, I didn't find out how many issues you can have with latching, with like anything that can go wrong, or like there's nothing wrong, like no, like he had no tongue tie, no, there was nothing wrong with my nipple shape, there was nothing wrong with anything, but he just wouldn't latch, and there was no sort of, I don't know, there was nothing ever that I found out about that until it happened. So when it did, I was like, what on earth do I do? Near the end of my pregnancy, I was getting extra scans because my BMI was higher. And then they said that baby was small. So I was getting extra scans then again because of that. And then like it was sort of consultant led, and he seemed to think that I'd lost some of my waters, and like there was this big hoo-ha about it, and they said, right, you need to be induced today. I went to the actual hospital and they said, it's like, if you don't want to be induced then you don't have to be. I'm like, no thank you. And we booked an induction for then 3 days past my due date, which obviously is earlier than you would normally get induced. 3 days passed, went in for my induction, and basically nothing worked. It put me into labour. I was contracting every 3 minutes, but I wasn't dilating. And they tried absolutely everything. And 9 days later, I was still contracting, but still nothing. They managed to break my waters at 1 centimetre, and I was on a hormone drip for 14 hours, and I still, after the 14 hours, still was only 1 centimetre. So they were like, yeah, your uterus is like so tired that we're going to have to do a section. Otherwise, like it's not going to, like close back up. Like I got thrush, I got a UTI from all the hormones and everything that was just being going on. In the end, we went in for the section, and I felt, I think my body was exhausted. So I felt like really sick. I was being sick. And I just felt so out of it. The experience was taken away from me because I felt so unwell. I was sort of going in and out of consciousness. And then I know now I'd hemorrhaged, which is so because I was losing so much blood. That's why I was going in and out. And because it was emergency, nothing was explained to me. Obviously, it was just, we need to go now. I don't know. It just wasn't the experience that I thought it was going to be because I felt so unwell. Like everyone, all through the 9 days, everyone was like, once you get your baby in your arms, it'll be fine. It'll be so worth it. And like, I never got that moment. You know what I mean? So it were a bit bittersweet. And then afterwards, then obviously he wouldn't latch. Like I couldn't, because I was unwell, I couldn't like get him dressed for the first time. I couldn't hold him properly, so I couldn't latch him properly. And then I now know from speaking to the consultants that all of that basically affected my milk supply. So I'd put my little finger in his mouth, I'd put a syringe in his mouth because I was syringe feeding colostrum, put a little finger in his mouth, and he'd suck the syringe, put my nipple in his mouth, he'd just sit there with it in his mouth. It wouldn't suck. So that golden hour as well that you're supposed to have, you're supposed to feed your baby in that golden hour to get like a good, and didn't have that. It was sort of more than 2 hours. And then he just slept, and we got moved on to the aftercare ward. And I just said, when should I feed him? And they're like, oh, when's the last fed? And I said, oh, like this morning. They were like, And I'm like, well, he's just slept. And so he must have been so tired. In them early weeks, he would just sleep. I had to set alarms every 3 hours to get him up and wake him. And once I did get him to latch, got him to latch on day 5 because we found a good position. And once I did, he was feeding really well. I was waking him up every 3 hours, thought I was being doing great as a first mum. And then I just they kept coming and weighing him and he kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong? Because he's feeding. And now, after the fact, where it looked like he was dropping weight, really he wasn't. He was just, it was an inflated birth weight and he was actually just getting back to where he should have been. And they were making me stress about it. Then once I started going to the feeding group, he was 8 weeks and I started offering what they call four breasts. So once because he was sort of feeding and then he'd sort of slow off, and I think, oh, he's done. So I take him off. But then what they told me to do was once he did that, switch him to the other side, and then I did that, switch him back and switch him back again. So he had four breasts in one feed, and that meant they had like longer feeds. And from then he started piling on weight. Before I had my little boy, we knew obviously we wanted to have a baby, and we started saving like 8 months before we even started trying, just so I had enough to cover us on maternity. And that's something that I don't understand why it's so poorly paid. Because you are a working person, and like not only have you got yourself to look after whilst you're off, for 9 months to a year, but you've got another little person and you're on maternity leave. And like I didn't anticipate how much more money I would spend, not on him necessarily, just on us going out and doing stuff. I think that's a massive thing, like the mental health for mums and, getting out. And there's only so many times you can go out and go for a walk around a park that's free, like, and when you want to socialize, it's nice. Like if you want to go to a soft play or you want to go for a coffee with another mum, or like you need that extra bit of money. And like this, I know that Marks and Spencers, I think, have started doing M&S Cafe on a. I want to say it's a Tuesday morning. They do like a for new mums or any mums, where you can go in and if you can get like a coffee and a free piece of cake or something like that. The whole point is of encouraging new mums to come together and socialize and things like that. I feel like more places should do stuff like that because it can be so lonely. And I think to myself, like, I'm lucky we're not in that position, but how many mums have a surprise baby? We're not expecting this baby, and I've had so much to pay for. Now they're on maternity leave, they're getting rubbish pay and they can't afford to go out and do stuff. And it must be so even more lonely.